What is going on, guys? JD from New York here. WWE Monday Night Raw review for last night's show at the Allstate Arena in Chicago, Illinois on March 3rd, 2014. This show, I was on Twitter, and I even said to the guys on Twitter, I've never been more pumped for a Monday Night Raw in quite some time. Now, I know the Monday Night Raw following the Elimination Chamber was supposed to be this huge show. You know, you got the return of The Undertaker. It's pretty much going to set up all these WrestleMania matches going forward for WrestleMania 30. Hulk Hogan was there. But it was a watchable show, but it was pretty much a letdown in the end. It wasn't as hot as it was supposed to be. This show, last night's show from Chicago, was pretty much a can't-miss show because I really don't know what happened internally. You know, we're going to talk about it today. Obviously, this entire show was built around CM Punk. The WWE built this entire show around CM Punk, even though he walked out of the company. The WWE knew you were going to tune into Monday Night Raw simply because this show was, coming to you live from Chicago. Is CM Punk going to, return to the WWE? It would make the most sense if he returned to the WWE last night. Now, the WWE played us all like puppets in the end. They played us like puppets. We got no CM Punk. We got Daniel Bryan laid out again by the Authority. How many times is that now? I can't even fucking count on both hands how many times Daniel Bryan's been laid out by the Authority to end a Monday Night Raw or a pay-per-view or any show in general. But last night's show was built around CM Punk, and the WWE knew this. The WWE knew this, and they played it perfectly. Now, I was disappointed with how the show ended. Obviously, I thought as the show went on, and as Triple H and Daniel Bryan were getting into it, and then the Authority was, pretty much outnumbering Daniel Bryan, I really thought CM Punk was going to show up at the very last minute and make the save, be the hero, and save Daniel Bryan from the Authority, and then it would raise more questions about how that would fill out the WrestleMania card. None of that happened. None of that happened, and like I said previously, the WWE played us like El Presidor plays everyone on Twitter and YouTube. He's a fucking puppet master. Vince McMahon is a puppet master. Okay, this is what he did. Brilliantly done by Vince McMahon. Everyone tuned in to Monday Night Raw to see CM Punk, and we did not get CM Punk. Now, obviously, when we heard his theme music play at the start of the show, we all heard Cult of Personality play. I stood up. I'm like, oh my God, he's here. He's here. I don't believe they're starting off the show with CM Punk right away. They're fucking showing their fucking cards on the table right now. They're going all in if they were sitting at the poker table. None of that happened. CM Punk didn't show up. But who did show up was someone who has been with CM Punk since the very beginning, and that is Paul Heyman. And he dropped his own pipe bomb for the WWE Universe right there in Chicago. He comes out, and he sits right in the middle of the ring, just like CM Punk would sit in the middle of the ring while cutting a promo. With the microphone in hand, the crowd's going crazy chanting CM Punk during this entire segment. But Heyman held up the microphone and then leaned over the ropes and encouraged the crowd to even chant CM Punk's name even louder. He said he came to the Allstate Arena to tell a story of a Paul Heyman guy that he knows. And obviously, we know that he's talking about CM Punk. Okay? They thought that CM Punk would never make it. They thought CM Punk would never be as popular as he is today in the WWE. They thought that CM Punk would never headline a WrestleMania. Heyman said that this guy has so many tattoos, he's not really cut out to be the face of the company, and the crowd is just going crazy. Paul Heyman came out as a face during this promo. He came out as a face for this promo, which, made me believe that if they're talking about CM Punk, if they have his theme music playing and they have the crowd in the palm of their hand, that maybe CM Punk will show up later in the show. Maybe CM Punk is signed to the WWE. Maybe he is returning because, previously they didn't even mention anything about CM Punk. They didn't mention the crowd chants. They didn't mention his name. They didn't mention that he walked out of the company. None of that. But today in Chicago, not today, this Tuesday, but last night in Chicago, they were all over CM Punk. So something may or might have changed there. That's what made me think. But obviously, as the show went on, we were a little bit disappointed. But I love this promo by Paul Heyman. I love this promo by Paul Heyman. Number one, because you can tell the way he was talking and the way it was worded that this was all scripted by Paul Heyman. There's nobody in WWE creative that is that intelligent to script a promo for Paul Heyman to go out there and write and say. Paul Heyman wrote this all on his own. No question. No question. He worded it perfectly, and everything Paul Heyman does is brilliant. And this is the reason why the Undertaker feud with Brock Lesnar going into WrestleMania 30 is going to be top-notch, is because Paul Heyman is right there. Paul Heyman is always going to be whispering in the ear of Brock Lesnar. You know, he's always going to be giving pointers to Brock Lesnar. And, you know, he's probably going to be giving pointers to The Undertaker about how to go about this match and how to develop this storyline. Paul Heyman's a genius, if you haven't already known that or noticed that. Paul Heyman is a genius. Everything he does is beautifully said. It gets the fans' attention. It makes you drop what you're doing just to listen to that man talk. And every time he's on the microphone, like last night, I stop what I'm doing and I listen to him talk. Now, he talked about CM Punk not being there and that he wanted CM Punk to be there. He wished CM Punk was there last night to show everyone why he's the best in the world. But then Paul Heyman switches the whole tone of the promo from face to heel. And he starts saying that each and every one of the people there at the Allstate Arena is to blame for why CM Punk is not there tonight. He's there. He's not there because of the fans. He's not in the WWE right now because of the fans. He walked out of the WWE because of the fans. And he also has The Undertaker to blame for that because when they were together, he said, they went on one of the longest reigns for a WWE champion ever. They went on to challenge The Undertaker for the streak, but they failed. Okay? Then he said he switched it beautifully. He switched gears beautifully from talking about CM Punk to The Undertaker. This is why I like this promo a lot. I love the way they started the show. He switches from CM Punk to The Undertaker, and he said, if anyone has a close ear to The Undertaker, give him this message for me. I want revenge for what happened last year at WrestleMania 29. And that revenge comes in the form of Brock Lesnar. Obviously, Brock Lesnar comes out, cuts his own promo, short, sweet, and simple. Pretty much all he said was that I'm going to take The Undertaker down at WrestleMania. I will be the one to end the streak. Brock Lesnar. That's it. That's all he said. I don't know exactly what he said. I don't have anything written in front of me, but pretty much that's what he said. He didn't stumble over his words. He was very direct with the audience. He sounded great. Lesnar is best when it comes in small doses. Okay? Let Paul Heyman do most of the work, but it went from the crowd chanting CM Punk, wanting to see CM Punk, Paul Heyman agreeing with them as a face. He quickly turned heel and said, you guys are to blame for CM Punk not being there, and then obviously he switched gears to The Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. Beautifully done segment last night, and it was a great thing to see. Now, obviously, we all wanted to see CM Punk. They kind of laid the groundwork to potentially see CM Punk later in the evening, but that didn't happen, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Now, another thing I want to bring to everyone's attention about CM Punk before I get into what I want to talk about next with Daniel Bryan and Triple H. What if CM Punk is really back and set to return following WrestleMania? Following WrestleMania. Maybe CM Punk didn't return right now because ultimately there's really no room for him on the WrestleMania 30 card. He knows this. The WWE is going ahead with plans to book WrestleMania without him. Maybe Vince McMahon is not superhuman. Maybe he couldn't get the job done in bringing CM Punk back on Monday Night Raw, even if it was going to be in Chicago, in front of his hometown crowd. Maybe Vince McMahon failed in giving CM Punk what he wanted. Maybe CM Punk really doesn't want to come back to the company. He's going to wait out his contract up in July, and then that's when we'll hear from CM Punk, and he'll be able to speak on what the fuck is really going on right now. But what if CM Punk does come back to the WWE as a heel with Paul Heyman? It's not so far-fetched that, we can't believe it. What if he does come back to the WWE as a heel and challenges a face Daniel Bryan? A lot of reports were going around a couple of months ago that the WWE right now has a big plan for CM Punk in the summer called the Summer of Punk. It's going to be another one of those Summer of Punk angles. This may be it. This may be it. You know, CM Punk comes back. Obviously, he won't get his WrestleMania main event. He won't get his WrestleMania moment. But if he comes back and aligns himself with Paul Heyman again as a heel and challenges a face Daniel Bryan, because in anyone's right mind, after WrestleMania or some, you know, a pay-per-view following WrestleMania, but it's got to be at WrestleMania or soon after WrestleMania, and I mean soon after WrestleMania, Daniel Bryan should be the WWE champion. No question. I do not believe the WWE is this fucking retarded that they can't give this man the WWE championship. I'm just so, you know, I don't believe it. I don't believe that Vince and Triple H and everybody else can be that fucking blinded that they can't see that this man deserves the WWE championship. Not because of what he does in the ring, but because of how the people react to him. You know, obviously he's selling merch. Obviously, you can sell merch if he's the WWE champion. Do you know how marketable Daniel Bryan would be even more so when he's the WWE champion? I just don't believe that, you know, they can't make money off of him the way they want. So everything comes into play. Daniel Bryan is the ideal WWE champion. But what if CM Punk comes back as a heel with Paul Heyman and challenges Daniel Bryan for the WWE championship, and we get the match that we wanted originally to happen at WrestleMania in the main event at SummerSlam? Punk, Bryan, WWE Championship. These two guys going at it at SummerSlam. I can't think of a SummerSlam main event, you know, in recent memory that would be that big. Especially with the whole thing with CM Punk going on right now. Come on, man. Perfect booking. It's an idea. Let's talk about it down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Now, Daniel Bryan. Let's get back on the topic of Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan's segment with Triple H last night was great. Absolutely, hands down, the best segment of the fucking show. Crowd was crazy. I laugh when I see crowds like that because that's the way a wrestling crowd is supposed to be during a Monday Night Raw, during WrestleMania season. Pretty much Daniel Bryan is lobbying for a match with Triple H at WrestleMania 30. Triple H doesn't want to give it to him because he repeatedly tells Daniel Bryan, listen, you're a B-plus player. There's nothing wrong with being a B-plus player. That's a good position for you. You got to look at it this way. You're better off than everyone sitting in this arena right now. You know, and then obviously Daniel Bryan, you know, Stephanie McMahon is trying to fucking talk to Daniel Bryan. I can't understand what Stephanie's saying because the crowd is literally deafening at this point where she, you know, she's just being completely drowned out by the crowd. And then obviously Daniel Bryan makes a comment saying, listen, Stephanie, you know, why don't you put on your husband's trunks and fight me at WrestleMania since Triple H doesn't want to do it? Maybe you can just flip roles. He could wear your, you know, you could wear his trunks and he could wear your skirt. Obviously, you've seen Triple H get a little annoyed here because when the wife comes into play, obviously he doesn't like that. So obviously, Triple H went into his Degeneration X mode and got down, you know, hunched down a little bit and got into the face of Daniel Bryan and said, you know, it's not going to happen, in a little child voice. It's not going to happen, fella. You know? Obviously, the WWE knows what they're doing here. I appreciate the booking of this angle. You know, it's something that I can appreciate because it will last, you know, the weeks coming up until WrestleMania. They don't want to give it away right now, even though we see it's going in that direction. So I appreciate the time that the WWE is taking out to book this angle correctly, even though this is the match we don't want to see. We much rather see Daniel Bryan in the main event at WrestleMania because right now, with the Batista heel turn and the promo he cut on Daniel Bryan tonight, saying that the Yes Movement is embarrassing, it's a fucking joke. It's like a fucking comic book character. Everybody's trying to believe in this superhero, but it's not real life. You know, I don't believe what's passing for a WWE superstar nowadays. Pretty much he said the Yes Movement is garbage. You know, how can you say the Yes Movement is garbage? You're the #1 contender for the WWE Championship, and you're going to fight another heel on Randy Orton. This is a disaster waiting to happen. You can't have Batista in his current role right now with his character go against a heel Randy Orton. It's not going to happen. That match will be an utter fucking failure. Daniel Bryan should be inserted into that main event some way, somehow. Hopefully, the only way that they can do this right now, and eventually Triple H will accept his challenge at WrestleMania, and when he does, the crowd is going to pop heavily. It's going to be a hot crowd, okay? It's going to be a great moment when Triple H finally accepts that challenge of Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30, and the match is set. But what really needs to happen is Daniel Bryan really needs to secure himself a WWE Championship shot if he defeats Triple H. all these weeks of punishment, all these weeks of embarrassment and screw jobs. Daniel Bryan deserves a championship match if he defeats Triple H. This is the head of the authority. It only makes sense. You fucked me out of so many shots out of the WWE Championship. This is my revenge on you. If I defeat you, I get my shot. Legit at the title. Whether that happens at WrestleMania, whether that happens at the following pay-per-view, I don't know. I would prefer it to happen at WrestleMania, and he's inserted into the Batista-Orton match. That's the only thing that makes sense, because I don't want to see two heels, especially the heel a caliber of a Batista now. You know, Batista's a massive heel right now. You really can't have Batista and Orton go at it in the main event. But if Daniel Bryan loses to Triple H, he gets no more title shots ever again. He's done. The talk of Daniel Bryan being WWE champion ends at WrestleMania if he loses to Triple H. That's the only way that they have to book this match. I do appreciate the WWE and the time they're taking out to book this angle. Everything last night was great. The crowd made that segment even better than it originally was. I think Monday Night Raw should be in Chicago every fucking week the way that crowd reacted last night. Absolutely great segment, probably the best of the show. Then obviously Kane comes down. He tries to attack Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan one-ups him, dives over the ropes. Stephanie's calling for the security to take Daniel Bryan away. At this point, I didn't even think Daniel Bryan was going to fight Batista in the main event. I thought they were going to kick him out of the building. But Michael Cole reinstated and reaffirmed that Batista is fighting Daniel Bryan tonight, that Bryan will be back later out this evening to fight Batista in the main event. So they ushered him away. Great segment all in all. I can't wait to see how it further develops, and hopefully the WWE knows what they're doing in booking this match and gives Daniel Bryan what he deserves, because there needs to be some type of stipulation. It can't be just a one-on-one. Yeah, Daniel Bryan gets his revenge. It's over. You know, he's got to get that legit shot at the title. He deserves it. It needs to come down to that. If he's inserted into the main event at WrestleMania, so be it. That's the way I would have it. If not, the following pay-per-view. But it's not going to hold... it's not going to be as great. It's not going to be as exciting, as epic if it's happening at Extreme Rules. It needs to happen at WrestleMania. The show needs to end with Daniel Bryan with the WWE Championship. If not, Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar is going to close the show. You know, I have no problem with that, but I'd rather see Daniel Bryan leading a yes chant of 85,000 fucking people in New Orleans at WrestleMania 30. That's what I want to see. I'm sure that's what you guys want to see. And finally, guys, in the main event, Batista versus Daniel Bryan, which I was stoked about before Monday Night Raw even took place. I was surprised that they were actually going to book this match so soon. This to me seems like a fucking marquee main event match with a massive heel Batista going against the big-time face in Daniel Bryan, possibly fighting over a championship. But I was surprised that they actually had this match happen last night on Monday Night Raw. Now, you know, the match wasn't all great. I mean, it was really rushed. You can tell the WWE was pressed for time. They had John Cena come out beforehand and cut a promo. It really didn't sound like anything fresh from John Cena. It was the same typical bullshit that he talks about, saying that, you know, the Wyatt family really need to step up, you know, and they have to come through John Cena if they ultimately want to get what they want. Bray Wyatt, you know, cuts amazing promos out. You know, it was the same thing here and there with Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family. But they really need to put some heat. They really need to get the crowd to really fucking hate Bray Wyatt leading into WrestleMania with John Cena. That's the only way this is going to work. That's the only way this is going to work with Bray Wyatt. You know, I don't know how the WWE seen that last week's segment with the injury angle was successful, because a lot of people, you know, instead of putting heat on the Wyatt family, they put a lot of concern on people's minds. Is John Cena hurt? What's going to happen with WrestleMania? Is John Cena going to be able to compete at WrestleMania? So instead of putting that heat on the Wyatt family, the WWE made you believe that John Cena was really hurt. And he's not. He's not hurt. He did house shows with Randy Orton. He was in a steel cage match, for fucking Christ's sake, with Randy Orton on a house show last week. So he's not hurt. The WWE is going to make you believe that he is hurt, but he's really not hurt. But the WWE really needs to think about what they're doing with Bray Wyatt and John Cena. They really need to put some fucking massive heat. They really need to get the crowds to fucking despise Bray Wyatt leading into WrestleMania. They have to set up, you know, why is Bray Wyatt, you know, fighting John Cena? More than so, you know, he's the knight in shining armor. You know, he's the number one choice of the WWE universe. You know, he's gonna take down the number one hero sitting upon that throne in the WWE kingdom. It's all good and dandy. That's all fine. There's got to be more to that, though. He needs some fucking legit heat on Bray Wyatt before you get him in the ring with John Cena. Because if not, then what the fuck are they really fighting for? Like, why are they fighting? Not only that, it's going to drag the match down, and it's not going to be as hot as it should be. Bray Wyatt deserves a lot better, especially leading into a WrestleMania match with the #1 guy in the company. That's all I ask for WWE right now. They really got to get some heat and some hatred behind the Wyatt family leading into their match with John Cena. And finally, guys, Daniel Bryan versus Batista, like I said, this is a marquee match that should be headlining pay-per-views, but they wanted to give it to you on Monday Night Raw in a short 7-minute match. They wasted so much time with John Cena and Bray Wyatt, and they had Alexander Rusev come out and pretty much do a useless promo in whatever, what kind of language is he speaking? I don't know, Russian? I don't fucking know. He looks impressive, though. He looks impressive. Lana looks impressive. I see big things for Alexander Rusev until he finally debuts. I want to see what he does in the WWE ring and what his first feud is going to be. But this was all, not needed. It wasn't needed last night. What should have been the main focus was Daniel Bryan versus Batista, because something like this, especially for the first time, hasn't happened. You don't see this kind of match on Monday Night Raw often. Especially with Batista and Bryan going at it for the first time. Ultimately, short match. The Authority got in and interfered. Randy Orton was on the outside, obviously. I don't know why he was standing out there. Obviously, you knew he was standing out there. He was going to play a part in the match. But the match really wasn't anything spectacular. It's what happened after the match that, everything started to break down. Orton set up for an RKO on Batista. Batista shoved him off, and Bryan hit him with that running knee, which he's calling now the knee plus. That goes back to Triple H calling him a B plus. And Daniel Bryan says, you know what? Triple H thinks I'm a B plus. I'm going to hit him with the knee plus. So he had the fans actually name that move for him, which was pretty cool. Bryan dropped Batista, dropkicked Kane off the ring apron. Kane was there, like I said, the entire Authority was there, and ran into Triple H. Triple H took a bump. Obviously, this was going to pretty much anger Triple H. Bryan set off for a suicide dive outside, but Batista cut him off with a spear, which was pretty impressive. And then, obviously, he hit the Batista bomb. Hunter reached down, grabbed Bryan by the hair, pretty much gave him the pedigree. He said he was pretty much tired of this fantasy crap. I love the attitude of Triple H, man. You hate Triple H as a character, but when he gets into fucking, his mode, his WrestleMania mode, he's unbelievable. The whole thing with Daniel Bryan and Triple H right now last night was great. He says he's tired of the fantasy crap. Bryan kicked Triple H in the head. That actually got Daniel Bryan over more so than anything he did in the night, because he finally laid his hands on Triple H. The crowd's chanting for CM Punk still. We all thought CM Punk was going to come out last night. Obviously, that did not happen, okay? Triple H gets the pedigree on Daniel Bryan. And then, obviously, just to fucking add salt into the wound, you got Triple H and Stephanie McMahon laying over a downed Daniel Bryan after pedigree, doing the mock yes chant. Stephanie did a mock yes chant. Triple H did a mock yes chant. Obviously, another Monday Night Raw where Daniel Bryan is laid out. But, we finally seen Daniel Bryan get his hands on Triple H in the form of a kick to the fucking face. Now, there was no CM Punk, all right? WWE did a commendable job getting through this Monday Night Raw. I will say this before I end this video. They did a commendable job of getting through this Monday Night Raw, even though CM Punk was not there. The Chicago crowd ultimately went home, disappointed. But they delivered a very entertaining 3-hour show. Now, there was a lot of filler in there. We've seen the Usos finally capture the tag team championships. We've seen a great match with Sheamus versus Christian, but the crowd did not appreciate it. And understandably, because we've seen that so many times. Okay, we've seen that so many times. But the Chicago fans were ultimately disappointed. There was no CM Punk. Obviously, we don't know if we are going to see CM Punk. Last night would have been the ideal spot for CM Punk to show up. If he doesn't show up at WrestleMania, I'm giving up hope. I'm telling you right now. So there is a chance that we see CM Punk possibly at WrestleMania. This makes WrestleMania all the more compelling. But Monday Night Raw last night, they forwarded several storylines. They're building towards Triple H versus Daniel Bryan, even though this is the match we don't want. There is still time to get Daniel Bryan into that main event. Hopefully that's what the WWE is going to do right now. I just don't see a complete money match in Triple H versus Daniel Bryan. I am not sold on that match. I'm just not. I'm not sold on Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, even though everything that happened last night was fucking fantastic. It was great. Probably the best part of Monday Night Raw last night. But I'm not sold on Daniel Bryan versus Triple H unless there's something of meaning, of something of substance in that match for Daniel Bryan to walk away with. I'm just not sold there yet. WWE still has 4 weeks, 5 weeks. They got to get it right. WrestleMania right now is looking a little bit underwhelming. John Cena versus Bray Wyatt pretty much took the week off. They got to add heat on Bray Wyatt. Undertaker wasn't there, which is okay. We're used to not seeing The Undertaker. Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman did the most that they could and did a great job about it in building that storyline. Paul Heyman wants revenge. And then obviously Batista versus Randy Orton. Nobody wants to see this match. Absolutely nobody. I don't understand how WWE is going to go ahead and book Batista as a monster heel right now. A cocky heel. You know, just right before he left WWE 4 years ago, he's back into that fucking phase of being that cocky asshole heel. How they're going to book that type of Batista character in a match against Randy Orton at WrestleMania and have that close the show? I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm still leaving the fucking door open. Daniel Bryan still has to get into that title match. It's got to be. You got to put a face into that title match. Otherwise, that main event, everyone's going to be watching that main event simply to see that match be fucking torn to shreds. That match, you talk about Monday Night Raw being hijacked last night by the WWE fans in Chicago. WWE had that under control. I don't think you're going to control 85,000 fucking people at WrestleMania 30 when that match ultimately happens between Batista and Randy Orton. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. Daniel Bryan needs to be in that main event. That's your Monday Night Raw review, guys. If you enjoyed my points and opinions on Monday Night Raw, please leave your likes down below or comments down below. Like the video. It really helps out my channel. I would greatly appreciate it if you made it this far. I will be back with hopefully news on why CM Punk wasn't there, why The Undertaker wasn't there, and more WWE news and rumors on Off the Script this Saturday, as always, guys. Like I said, if you enjoyed, leave your comments down below. Like, favorite, share, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys on Saturday morning with Off the Script, WWE news and rumors, guys. Take care, and I will talk to you all very soon.